Welcome, everybody, to The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. The topic for today is the mythical story and the mythical archetype. And before we dive in, I'm going to tell you a story that, changed my life. When I was 6 years old, was the first time my parents took me to the cinema. In itself, it was an experience, just going and having that. But the movie I saw was Star Wars. It was The Return of the Jedi. And, first I saw the monsters, I saw Jabba's palace, I saw everything that was happening there. But later, I saw a scene that really changed my life. It was the Sarlacc scene, and this was my hero that's just become my hero. Luke Skywalker had just been delivered from the Rancor, and had survived that, and now he was going to be executed with his friends. And they take him to the Sarlacc, and I see him, typical pirate scene, about to be thrown into the mouth of I don't know what that was, but it was a hole in the ground, a pit. So I was really intrigued of what was going to happen. And I remember him being very defiant and saying, "Jabba, this is your last chance. Free us or die." And they start laughing. And suddenly he raises his hands and makes a gesture to his companion, R2-D2. Before that time, I had never seen a lightsaber. So imagine the impact of when suddenly they try to put him in. He turns around, catches the plank, just jumps in the air, flips over, catches the lightsaber, and frankly starts kicking butt. That really changed my life. The moment there really marked me. From then on, I started living in those realities, in that myth, in those stories. Every day that I woke up, it was, trying to be Luke Skywalker, trying to save the galaxy, trying to fight the evil empire and do all that. And so our story or our topic is going to be focused on the mythical story and the mythical archetypes. The program of The Divine Within focuses on the importance and the impact of archetypes and myth in human civilization. This segment and this version is, that we're talking about. Regardless of the West and the East, poor or rich, even religions, there is a common thread among all the cultures on the earth. The same stories are repeated, maybe not the same characters, but they are, in essence, the same. This is what Joseph Campbell demonstrated in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This is the main work that inspired George Lucas into creating Star Wars, the ultimate mythical story. And why is that? Why is Star Wars the ultimate myth? Because it was so beautifully created that it allows for endless stories to be told. It contains endless heroes, villains, lessons, and most importantly, meaning. It takes us to a galaxy far, far away, and curiously integrating the different cultures of the Earth into a galactic mosaic, without restricting it to a simple culture. It also takes a space opera that integrates a religious aspect, so intelligently designed that we don't even notice. Lucas was able to introduce the Force as a fundamental source, a controller and upholder of everything that exists, without putting a face to it. In essence, taking away personality and leaving God as a raw and all-encompassing force that integrates both the light and the dark, making it absolute. I personally believe that my generation, Generation X, was the first generation to collectively discard institutional religion, a bold move that was needed given the actual state of human evolution. We no longer have to conform to a church. But nevertheless, this doesn't mean that we have to kill the idea of the existence of God. On the contrary, we're given the choice, and it's in us to seek Him. And then we find meaning, we find truths, we find values, and most importantly, we align ourselves with them, and we live our lives by them. And Star Wars, my friend, is our bridge from myth to personal religion. Now, I want to welcome today's guests. This panel is really peppered with very talented story writers, people that have dedicated their lives to creating stories, to these myths, to these archetypes. And I want them to share their personal stories and why they are doing this and what really moves them, and try to, with them, understand what this is all about. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Carrie Bloch. Carrie is a PBS professional, a tea sommelier, and author. She has enjoyed 2 tenures totaling a 30-year career in public television, nonprofit, mission-driven educational television. She is employed by New Orleans PBS station. Her expertise is in corporate partnerships and fundraising with script writing and production skills. She previously owned and operated a family business and internationally styled tea house for 13 years. The Tea Stores continues online. You can check it out at www.theans, Mythical.com, and we're going to put that in the comments. You're going to see. But most recently, she has enjoyed writing children's books as part of the Spiritual Tea series entitled Lil Vianne's Discovers Christmas and Lil Vianne Discovers Tea Around the World, which can be found in Amazon. And now she's working on Lil Vianne comes to Easter or discovers Easter. Thank you, Carrie, and welcome, Carrie. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is really wonderful. I'm enjoying springtime in New Orleans. As you can see, you might hear the birds chirping in the background. I'm very excited about my latest book, Little Vianne Discovers Easter. I'm taking a lot of time with it. It's a complex subject, actually, and it's even harder to imagine how a child should perceive this, because it's such a tragic week leading up to the resurrection. And what do we tell children? Do we just tell them that they were very mean to Jesus? What do we say? What details do we give them? But it's from the perspective of the protagonist. Little Vianne is a butterfly, an imaginary fantasy butterfly. She's a pink butterfly, like a fly on the wall. So she sees all, and she is able to tell the story. And she has a little friend that she tells stories to. So it's all about the stories. I even like you mentioned, Santi, I work for the PBS station and here in New Orleans, and we even talk about being our region's storyteller. We have discovered over the years that telling stories just really is a way to get a really nice point across. And it is so important in our day and age for us to be able to connect with others when there's so much great technology out there as this. I mean, look at us. This panel is all over the world in all different time zones. This is just amazing. And so happy to be a part of this. But we need to find ways to connect. And you can be having conversation. You can, be in a business meeting, but telling that story will help someone remember and help them to understand the point that you're trying to make. So that's just a little bit. I don't know if you have any specific questions for me, but I'm happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
We're going to have a lot of questions, Carrie, once we dive into the topics. So just you wait. Thank you. Now I'm going to move to Stephen Marble. Well, Stephen, a good friend of mine, is a film veteran, if I may say. He, after completing studies in the film and education at the University of Southern California, UCLA, and Antioch University, Stephen began teaching filmmaking to youth. Founded and ran a private experiential school for students from elementary into high school. He developed film projects, then began a career in special format filmmaking and immersive attraction design and production. The results were the IMAX films Chronos and Sacred Site, as well as the development of concepts for 70mm feature films Baraka and Samsara. After managing and directing the design, development, and production of 2 Back to the Future rides for Universal Studios, he continued designing and building many attractions worldwide, including an UFO experience in China. For the past 23 years, Stephen has worked with his daughter Lyra to develop a successful pumpkin patch and Christmas tree business well known throughout the Los Angeles area. And so if you ever bought or are from the area, you probably know Stephen or you know her as his daughter, because they know the pumpkins and they know the trees. And when Stephen is not working in his seasonal business, he's worked with the Center for Unity and he clears people for places of problematic energies and develops cinematic stories and projects. So welcome, Stephen. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Santiago. It's a great opportunity. I'm thrilled. There's so many things to share, and I'm glad that you're crafting this and giving us some focus, because the universe has a lot to say these days. And I think that's the most important thing, that we're tapping into the universe is tapping into us, and we're in this feedback loop that is escalating into a new era. So I'm thrilled to be here to share this. And the way you framed it with the hero's journey is so appropriate.
Thank you, Stephen. And we've talked about this a long time, so it's only expanding in our conversation. So I'm really thrilled to have you here. And next, I have Reza Sixo. Reza is an award-winning filmmaker, actor, and writer whose bold boundary-pushing work has been celebrated at Sundance, Cannes, and beyond. Renowned for his innovative approach to storytelling, he crafts films that challenge perception, blend genres, and defy expectations. He produced and co-starred in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, an acclaimed Iranian vampire western praised by Time magazine as one of the best vampire films of all time. In addition, he has pioneered the use of AI in filmmaking, with his work featured at Tribeca, where he showcased a groundbreaking film using OpenAI's Sora. Recently, he co-founded Massive Studios, which Forbes described as a creative shop with deep expertise in generative AI. Safai's projects are a reflection of his hybrid identity and the world we live in today, where cultures, histories, and aesthetics collide to create something entirely new. Welcome, Reza. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Santiago. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's wonderful to be here with Carrie and Stephen, meet you, and Susan as well.
Thank you, Stephen. And just to put in a little bit of information, one of the things that really connected me to Reza is when I met him. You know, I just told the story about my experience with Star Wars, and Reza had a similar experience, but with another Star Wars movie. And when he said that, it was like, you know, that moment that you had me at hello. You know, it was like, yeah, we understood each other, I think.
That's right. Yeah, we really did connect on that. Very similar wavelength. You know, as you said in your bio, or, you know, hinted at, I was born in Iran, and I've lived most of my life in the US. The second time was kind of a forced exit, was during the Iranian Revolution, which, you know, in my mind is really kind of a misnomer. It was more like a civil war, a very bloody affair. And my family, so, you know, we had to leave, but, you know, while we were there, at the beginning of it, you know, it was something that all the people were involved in terms of trying to overthrow the monarchy. But then quickly, the, you know, now what is known as the Islamic Republic, those forces really wanted to take over and violently did so. And I remember, you know, I had the first time, and I loved how you described going to the cinema being such a magical experience. The first time I ever went to the cinema was when I was 2, actually, and it was before this revolution. And I was looking through a newspaper and I saw a picture, and I pointed to that picture, telling my parents I wanted to see this. And it was the original Walt Disney Robin Hood.
Okay.
And what happened was, like, you know, I said this, and then they took me to the theater. And as you can imagine, as a child, it's just profound. These larger than life figures in this magical land, and the music and the storytelling and everything, you know, I was hooked. And but I didn't get a chance to see another movie for a long time, which leads, and one of the main reasons is during this revolution, there was a very popular film in Iran. It was, you know, the hit. It was called The Deer, directed by Masoud Kimiai, and he was a terrific director, mostly, you know, like kind of on the Tarantino side, you know, mixing action with interesting things. And the star of it was the biggest star of Iran, named Behruz Vusuri, who is still revered. He lives in Northern California. And the film was playing, and during this revolution, unfortunately, it was playing in this really big cinema that there were 420 people there watching it that day. And what happened was, it's become clear that it was, the forces involved with the Islamic Republic did this, but they closed everyone in the theater and set it on fire, and everyone died. And for the longest time, that was the greatest, act of terror in the world known. My parents were busy, and my family, they were just busy trying to deal with, everything that was going on, and they weren't going to have time to really explain to a child what was going on. That's what I thought of, in terms of what would happen to going to a movie theater. Now, we were very fortunate that my parents figured out a way for us to escape during this time, and we ended up. It was a crazy time for our family because we were very, my dad was very successful, my mom was successful. We had to leave it all behind, and we moved into a trailer park in a suburb of Pittsburgh with a roommate. A major cultural shock and shift.
I imagine.
It was pretty crazy. But, as a kid, I'm, you're just kind of, I guess, resilient, and you're going to go on to the next new thing. But I made some friends, and the movie Empire Strikes Back was playing, and I was invited to go to the movie by my friends. And I don't know, you know, what struck my parents, but you know, I'm so glad they did. But they allowed me to go to the movie. Now, the thing that my friends didn't know, they didn't know this story I was just telling you, that what
Yeah.
happened with the film with the deer. But in the car, I was completely terrified on the way to the movie theater, thinking that I'm not going to live. Something terrible was going to happen to me. And so we get there, and you know, the lights go down, and I'm getting even more scared. And then the magic, you know, I didn't know anything about Star Wars or any of it. And then I got lost in this world and this story. It was incredible, obviously, because of the movie making, the storytelling, and the stuff that you're talking about, Santiago. But what was really important was when the lights came up and nothing happened to me and I left, I knew that I was free. I was free to live. I was free to enjoy art. I was free to let myself connect with others, you know, and be among other people. So, you know, it was a really profound moment for me. And then from that time on, it just, I wanted anything that, you know, that involved storytelling was, you know, part of my DNA, I would just say at that point.
Beautiful stories, Reza. Thank you for that. And now I'm going to introduce Susan. Susan Lyon is our tutor operator, and we call our tutor operators the ghost in the machine, because one of the things that we developed as the CFU is a tutor.
I was remember the first experience going to see that movie that you talked about. And my first daughter was only 2 at the time, so we needed a babysitter when Star Wars first came out. And it was hyped so much at the time. Everyone was so excited to go see that movie. So it was a much different experience than Riza experienced when he went to see the film. But when we got there, I don't know if y'all remember, but it was the first movie that had Dolby stereo sound, and you could actually feel the seats vibrating. It was a real experience, and I'll never forget the opening scene with the text going up into, you know, the space and
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
the big screen. It was totally different than anything we'd ever seen. And of course, we were so enthralled with the story, we went back and saw it 6 times and paid to over and over, you know, for the first couple of weeks. And we were big fans of the whole story. But it was quite a big deal in the day. I've since that time realized that I think real life is maybe even more exciting and mysterious than that movie is. So that's what I found along the way, is that it inspired us to look for bigger answers and deeper truths. So that's my story.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for tying that into that story. I think everybody has their Star Wars story, you know. Everybody can share that first impressions.